Hello, everybody. My name's Maddie, and I'm an implementation specialist here at Lightspeed. I'll be going through today's eCom C-Series product webinar with you all. Now, hopefully, you're able to hear me and you can see my screen okay, but if you are having some difficulties, those usually just can be fixed by hopping out of the webinar platform and then popping back in. If those problems do seem to persist, though, you can give my team a call at one of the numbers on the screen, and they'll be able to give you a hand. Now, it does look like everybody is here for today, so we're going to go ahead and just jump right in. So as I said, my name is Maddie. I've worked in the retail/customer service industry for about 8 years now. I currently onboard retail, eCom, and loyalty here at Lightspeed. Pre-pandemic, concerts were my absolute most favorite activity, and I'm a very big Harry Styles fan. Now, this is an overview of the onboarding journey that you're going to be going through with our Lightspeed eCom product here. So starting off with today, we are going to talk about all things products. After that, you'll have the option of attending our design webinar, and that's where we'll go through how to build out your website using the tools that Lightspeed gives you. After that, you'll also have the option of attending a one-on-one consultation with an implementation specialist. Now, that's a great time to go through any additional questions that might have popped up or any specific workflows you wanted to go through. And then you'll also have the option of attending our SEO webinar after that for a little bit more information. Now, we are recording today's webinar, so when we're all finished, you will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording. Now, of course, you're more than welcome to rewatch it yourself, or you can also pass it along to anyone else who wasn't able to attend today. This is going to be an overview of our agenda for today. So we're going to start out on the retail side of things, talking about managing our products. So we're going to talk a little bit about single items versus matrix items. We'll talk about categories and brands, as those are both going to be kind of big components on the eCom side. We'll talk about the quick edit items tool, and then we'll make sure everybody's actually comfortable logging into eCom. Then from there, we'll switch into the eCom side of things, and we'll talk about managing your categories, products, and brands. We'll talk about managing your content as well as changing your visibility of your items. And then we'll look at a couple finished products on the website so you can start to get a feel of what you're working towards. At the very end of our session, we are going to have some time for a Q&A. With that being said, though, if any questions do pop up, please feel free to type them into the questions box, and I'll do my best to get to them as I see them. If I don't get to your question right away, I will send you an email follow-up with some additional information that you'll be able to take a look at. Now we are done all of our housekeeping, so we're going to go ahead and pop directly into our retail account. Now, at this point, hopefully this page is starting to look familiar for you. We're going to start out in retail because retail is going to be your hub for all things products. This is where all of your products are going to originate. Now, first things first is when you're in your retail account, you'll likely want to do just a really quick check to see if you've had a chance to install your eCom account yet. If we pop into our inventory tab over on the left-hand side of the page, we're then going to go into item search on the top left of our page again there. And if you've installed eCom, you should see a publish to eCom column over on the right side of the page here. If you see that, great. It's a pretty good indicator that eCom has already been installed. If you do not see that column, you're likely just going to have to go through and install the eCom account. Now, to install eCom, all you're going to do is click the top left corner of your account where it says Retail R Series, and we're just going to pop into eCom C Series. Now, if you've connected your account already, it's just going to pop you into the eCom back office. But if you haven't had a chance to do that yet, this is just going to take you to a setup page, and you would just follow all of the prompts to get your eCom fully set up. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk about was going to be a default setting that some people like to modify. Now, what this default setting kind of is about is it's to do with publishing your items from retail over to eCom. By default, what this default setting does is automatically any product that you create on the retail side is going to be published over to eCom. Some people like that. Other people want to be a little bit more selective about the products that are going to be published because they don't plan on selling everything on the retail side on the website. If that's a setting that you want to modify, we can change that by going to our Settings tab on the left-hand side of the page. From here, we would go into General Options up on our top line. And then right in our second section here, we have a toggle for automatically published to eCom. So if we're okay with all of our products automatically being sent over to the eCom platform, we can leave that on. If you want to be a little bit more selective, you can uncheck it. Do keep in mind that this setting is not retroactive though. So if you've already gone ahead and published a bunch of items to eCom, this setting is not going to change that. It's just going to change everything kind of from that point onwards. Perfect. So let's go ahead and pop back over to our inventory tab on the left-hand side of the page. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the differences between single items and matrix items. Now with that in mind, I have a really quick poll I'm going to run, seeing if you're planning on using matrix items. Just gives me a general idea as to where everybody's at. And just a reminder that matrix items are going to be any of those items that come in different variations or different options. So it could be colors, sizes, flavors, anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and run that poll now, if you don't mind taking just a quick second to answer for me. Awesome. We'll give that another couple seconds to make sure everyone has had a chance to answer. Awesome. We will go ahead and close out our poll. So it does look like matrix items are going to be used. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about both of those. First things first, though, let's touch base on what pieces of information are going to be important for the eCom side of things. As I'm sure you've noticed, there's lots and lots of information you can enter into your items on the retail side, but some pieces of those information are going to be extra important when it comes to eCom. So we're going to pop into our item search tab up on the top left here, and then we're going to open up an existing item. Now running through this information, first piece we have up at the top is our item description. So this is just going to be the name of the item. This piece of information is going to transfer over to the eCom platform. So customers are going to see this item description on the website as well. Now on the website, there is going to be an option to change what the item description is, but we're going to talk about that in a couple minutes. Underneath that, we do have our images. If you've uploaded your images onto the retail side, those images are going to sync over to eCom with the product. Now you can upload up to 12 images per item or per matrix, but Lightspeed's not going to force you to enter in those images. If you would rather enter them just in eCom, you can do that, but if you enter them into retail, they automatically sync over for you, and then you have your images in both platforms. Underneath that, we do have all of our identification numbers. Now you are going to see these populating on the eCom side of things. You won't be able to modify them because they're coming from retail, but you will see them populating in your eCom back office. Underneath that, we have our category structure. Now, if an item is assigned to categories on the retail side, it's going to maintain those same relationships with the categories on the eCom side. The categories that you create in retail do sync over to eCom automatically, and they become your navigation tabs on the website. Now, those navigation tabs, we're going to talk about those again in just a little bit, but typically those are going to become the top navigation bars on your website, so customers can kind of click around and see all of the different types of products that you're selling. Underneath that, we have our brand. And I would say if you're selling branded products in your store, it's a great idea to make sure your brand is entered in here. That'll sync over to eCom as well. And then we do have some tags underneath that. Now, the tags in retail do not sync over to eCom. eCom has its own spot for additional tags. So do keep in mind that anything that you enter into retail for tags are not going to carry over to eCom. They're just going to stay on the retail side. Underneath that, we do have a little e-commerce section, and this is where we can choose to publish this item to eCom, or if for whatever reason we wanted to remove it from eCom, we do have a little delete from eCom button as well. Heading back up to the top of the page, we have our online price, so kind of over on the right side here. If our product is going to be a different price in store versus online, this is where we can make that distinction. And then the last piece of important information for eCom is going to be our stock levels. Now, this is kind of the beauty of having an omni-channel account, so the retail and eCom combination. Your stock levels are going to sync between the two platforms. So if you sell an item from eCom, it deducts it from retail and vice versa. So it's really important to make sure that your stock levels are accurate. That way you're not overselling a product or it doesn't look like you're out of stock, but you still have some. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to quickly create a single product together. So I'm just going to do kind of like a sister product for these ankle socks. And we're going to create one together, kind of focusing on those key pieces of information we just touched on. Then we'll talk about some differences with our matrix products. So heading back to our inventory menu, I'm going to go ahead and use my new item button here. And we're going to fill out the information. So I'm going to say that these are going to be pink ankle socks instead. We're going to go ahead and pop in a quantity. And now I am going to go through this portion fairly quickly because hopefully at this point you've seen this a couple times in the retail webinars and hopefully had a chance to practice on your own. Underneath that, I'm going to add in some identification numbers just so we can see what that looks like. We're going to go ahead and assign this item to a category structure. So we're going to click None. And we'll choose accessories, pop it into socks, and we'll say cotton. We will make sure to give it a brand. And now I'm going to enter in some tags here, just as a reminder that they do not carry to eCom. Underneath that, we'll make sure that our product is going to be published over to eCom because we're going to want to see it over there. Scrolling back up to the top, we will enter in our pricing. And mine's going to be the same price in store that it is online, so I don't need to change anything there. We're going to enter in a default cost, just so I have that on the retail side. However, that piece of information is not super important for eCom. And we'll enter in a vendor as well. Now from here, if I save my item, looking at this product in comparison to the first one that we looked at, is there something that I forgot to enter in? I can tell you right now, there is a piece of information that I did not enter in that we did use for our first one. So if you think you know what it is, you can go ahead and just type the word or the name of it in the questions box. I'll give you a second to think about it. Beautiful. Yeah, so it's going to be our images. We did not upload any images for this product. So I'm going to use my big blue Add Images button kind of up on the top there. And we're going to go ahead and add in a couple images. And actually, I think I just have the one, so that's okay. From here, we'll make sure we save our changes again. And now this product is ready to go on the eCom side. Before we take a look at this back on the eCom side though, we're going to switch gears a little bit and we're going to talk about matrix items. So I'm going to head back to my main inventory tab. And we're going to use this matrix tab up on our top line of options. Now, before we get into actually creating the matrix item, what we're going to end up creating for a matrix item is going to be a sweater. So it's going to be a clothing item. If we take a brief view or overview at our categories, so I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the page here and pop into categories. If we take a brief overview here, if we take a look at this, we don't really have anything that fits for like apparel or clothing. We have accessories, books, liquor. We kind of have everything else, but we're missing a category for clothing. So what we're going to do first is we're going to create a category for our clothing items or for our apparel. Then we're going to create our matrix item. So popping into our new category button in the top right corner, I'm going to create a category called apparel, and we'll save our changes. Now from here, I'm also going to add in a subcategory. So I want to break this down into the different types of apparel that I have. So I'm going to enter in maybe t-shirts. We'll add that in. Let's do maybe denim. We'll add that in. And then we'll do one for sweaters and add that one in. Now I'm going to go back one page to just look at all of my categories as an overview. So I'm going to use my little breadcrumb menu at the top of the page here. And now we have our little apparel category populating. One thing that I did want to go over here is in terms of a category limitation, or kind of a platform limitation, when these categories sync over to eCom. If you'll notice my apparel category, we have apparel, which is category level 1, and then denim, sweaters, and t-shirts would be my second level of categories. That's perfect, and those are going to transfer over just fine. Moving up to my accessories category, we have accessories, which is category number 1. Socks would be category level number 2. And then cotton and wool would be category level number 3. These are going to transfer over as well. Something to keep in mind, though, is if cotton or wool broke down into even more subcategories, my customers are not going to get that specific of a detailed category list on the website. That third level of categories is going to be the maximum for what our customers see on the website. So although retail will let you do, 4, 5, 6 levels of subcategories, eCom is only going to display the first 3. So as you're creating your categories, that's just something to keep in mind. You don't create them and then have to do kind of a complete category overhaul. Do keep in mind that eCom is just going to display the first 3 levels. Awesome. So let's pop back to our main inventory tab here, and we will jump into our matrix items. So we're going to pop into the matrix tab on our top line of options here. From here, we're going to hit new matrix in the top right corner. I know a lot of the information that we're going to enter in here is the same as what we did for our single items. So for our description, I'm going to say that this is a turtleneck sweater. We're going to go ahead and pop it in one of those categories that we just created. So we're going to hit none, open up apparel, and then sweaters. We'll make sure we give it a brand. I'll give it a vendor as well. And that's it for the left-hand side of the page. Moving over to the right, this is where we have some information that's going to be a little bit more new. Up on the top right side, we have an option for our matrix attributes. Now, this is where we're breaking down what are the different options that this item comes in. We're not getting too specific into the actual colors or the actual sizes just yet. This is where we can say, okay, is this a candle that comes in different scents? Is it a clothing item that comes in different sizes? What are the different options that this item comes in? So in my case, I'm just going to use color and size for my sweater, but you will have the ability to create your own custom attribute sets because, of course, not everything is just broken down into color and size. What you're likely going to see in your account are just the first 4 options here, but you do have the ability within your main inventory tab to create your own custom attribute sets if that's something that you need. Underneath that, I'm going to go ahead and pop in some pricing. And from here, we're going to save our changes. Moving over to the right-hand side of the page, we now have a couple drop-downs where we're going to type in the actual variations that we have for this item. And once that's all completed, we're going to save our changes once more. Now what you're going to see is on the left-hand side of the page, under that Save Changes button, we have a little matrix tab right under the word Setup. We're going to go ahead and open up that matrix tab. And we're going to hit the plus button for each combination that we want to carry in our inventory. If there are any options here that we're not going to have, that's fine. You don't have to press the plus button to create it. From here, we're going to go back to the Setup tab on the top left side under our Save Changes button. And now if we scroll down under our Group Items header, this is a list of all of the different variations we offer for this specific matrix. Now within here, this is where we can modify pricing per matrix. So if maybe this was a candle with different sizes and the bigger size is going to be more expensive, we can go in and we can modify our pricing. We can also enter in any individual SKUs, UPCs, anything like that that we might have on hand. Now from here, the main thing that I wanted to discuss that's going to be a little bit more different than what we're used to is going to be to do with our images. Now, a lot of the times what people will do is they'll open up one of the variants here by using the little pencil icon. They'll load their image to that specific variant and do that over and over again for all of the variants they have within this matrix. Now, you can do that, but we do typically advise against it. There's a couple reasons for that. If I take a look at all of my variants here, let's say I was to load in the same image of a black sweater for each one of my black options, and then the same white sweater image for each white option. When these variations sync over to eCom, they're going to pull all of those images into our image bank for our matrix. Now, what I'm going to end up seeing is I would see 3 of the black image and 3 of the white image. So I would have a lot of multiples that I would have to deal with. If I don't want them to be seen on the website, I would have to go through and delete any extra or additional images that have populated. That makes a little bit more work for yourself. Another thing to keep in mind is that even if we attach the image to a variant on the retail side, that relationship is not maintained on the eCom side. On the eCom side, we're still going to have to go in and assign that image to the variant again. So it is a bit of a two-part process. What we suggest, instead of entering your images into the individual variants, is to just add in all of the images that you want to use into the matrix instead. That way you don't end up with any duplicates or multiple images. And from there, you'll still be able to choose which image is associated with a specific variant on the eCom side. So we're going to go ahead and add in an image here. So I'll browse my files, and I actually have a black one and a white one. And we'll add those in. And we are good to go. We have both of our images. When we see those in eCom, we're just going to see the images populating once each, and then we're going to be able to assign them to their specific variant. The second thing that I wanted to go through that's going to be a little bit different for our matrix items is going to be when it comes to publishing them to eCom. As I'm sure you've noticed, within the matrix itself, there isn't one of those little checkboxes to publish the matrix to eCom. That is something that has to be done on a per variant basis. Now again, what we could do is we could open up one of our specific variants with our little pencil icon. We could head down to the eCom section and make sure that it's published over to eCom. But depending on how many variants you have, that could end up being quite tedious. What we have instead is a tool that you can use in the inventory tab that can hopefully help accomplish that a little bit quicker. So to access that tool, we're going to pop over to our inventory tab on the left-hand side of the page. And we're going to go into our third line of options here and pop into quick edit items. Now, typically, anytime you have to make bulk changes to some items, we do suggest to use the import tool up on your top line of options here. But sometimes you may not want to build a spreadsheet, or you don't always have to build a spreadsheet to make those changes. So this is where that quick edit items tool comes into play. So popping into quick edit items here, by default, you're going to see a list of all of the items you have in your inventory. So I'm going to go ahead and just search up the specific sweater variant. And to the right of where we just typed in our item description, we have about 5 different drop-down menus. This is where we can choose the specific information we want to see on this page. So in this case, I've said that I want to see our item description, so I know what the variant is. And then I also want to see the publish to eCom column, so I can choose if I want to publish that variant over to eCom or not. From here, once we see our publish to eCom column populating, depending on the way your account is set up, all of these might already be checked off and you're good to go, or they might be unchecked and you have to go through and just check off each variation that you want to see on the eCom side. So this can definitely make your life a little bit easier. And if you're like me, don't necessarily love using spreadsheets, this can be a great alternative to the import tool. Beautiful. So at this point, we are going to be all done on the retail side. So let's go ahead and hop into eCom. I have mine open in a separate tab up on the top here, but remember, you can always access it by clicking Retail R Series in the top left corner of your account, and then popping into eCom C Series. Now this looks very similar to our retail account. We have our menu over on the left where we can access all of the different areas of the system, but there are a couple different things that I wanted to note. If at any time you want to view your website as if you're a customer and just see the progress that you're making, you do have a little tab up on the top left here with your store name. Once you hover over your store name, you should see a little eye icon populating. And if you hit that, that's going to open up your website for you. You can also access your website by clicking the View Store button in the top right corner of your account. And again, that brings you to the home page of your website. Now, this is a little bit of a preview as to what you're going to see in the design webinar. But in the design webinar, we're going to talk about changing the colors and fonts here and adding in all of your images. So you will learn how to do all of this in the next session. Hopping back into my eCom back office, I wanted to focus on the Help button in the bottom left-hand corner just for a second here. So popping into Help, you'll notice that similar to retail, we have a store ID. If you have to contact our eCom support team for whatever reason, it's just a good idea to know where to find that ID number, because they will likely ask for it so they can identify you and your business. You can also search through the eCom Help Center. So if there's a specific topic you want to learn a little bit more about, you could search the Help Center for some documentation on that. We do also have a Getting Started guide. Now, especially if there's anyone here who is new to building out websites, this Getting Started guide is super, super useful, gives you a bit of a checklist to run through to make sure that you've checked off all your boxes and you've completed everything that you need to before actually launching. Now, before we get into actually modifying our contents or modifying our products, I have another really quick poll I'm going to run, just seeing if this is your first eCom website. Again, just gives me a general idea as to where everybody's at. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll now, if you don't mind taking another quick second to answer for me. Awesome. Looks like we are good to go. And it looks like everyone today is going to be new to websites. So it's super good info for me to have. And as I mentioned, please feel free to take a look at that Getting Started guide, because it's definitely super helpful just in terms of making sure that you've crossed everything off the list. Awesome. So let's pop into our products tab on the left-hand side of the page here. And this is where we're going to see a list of all of the products from retail that we decided to publish over to eCom. So depending on your retail setting for publishing your items to eCom, this may match the same amount of products you have in retail, or it might be quite different. Very first thing I wanted to mention is, again, another one of those default settings. By default, anytime an item is published over to eCom from retail, that item is set to be hidden. What that means is that no customers are able to see that item on the website. That item is just going to be visible in the back office for you and any employees to see. No customers are going to be able to see that. Lots of merchants like this because then they can go through and add in additional content or additional information. But some people want their items to be seen right away on the website. If you want to modify that setting, we can do that by going back to Home up on the top left here. Scrolling down to the bottom of the page, we can pop into Settings. And then in our second column of options here, the Store Settings column, we have an option for Workflow, second from the bottom. Opening this one up, we're going to scroll down just a touch until we hit the Web Store section. And in here, we have an option for New Products Should Be. So this is where we can choose to modify the visibility for any of those new products that are coming over from retail. So we can choose if we want them hidden. So again, it just means that that information is available in the back office. No customers can see it on the website yet. Always visible means that that product is visible 100% of the time. If you don't have stock, customers aren't going to be able to buy it, but they will still see it populating on the website. And then visible when in stock means that as long as you have a positive number of this item in stock, customers will be able to see it. The minute you drop down to 0 or the minute you drop down to not having any more in stock, no customers are going to be able to see it. It's automatically removed from the website. Now, this is something that you can change kind of in bulk for any new products that are added to the system going forward, or you're still able to change this on a product by product basis. I'm going to leave mine at hidden for now. And we're going to head back to our settings. And we're going to go into our products tab again here. Now let's go ahead and start working with one of our products. So we're going to use those pink ankle socks that we created on the retail side, and we're going to open those up. And we're going to go through all of the information here that we're able to enter in. Very first thing we notice in the top left is our image. So if we entered in our image onto the retail side, it automatically syncs over to eCom for us. We do have our item visibility up at the top, and this is where we can choose what we want to happen with this specific item. So this one, I'm going to say I want it to be always visible. And then underneath that, we see our item description from retail populating in both the title and full title spot. Now this is where we see the name of our item, but we can also modify it on the eCom side. And whatever we change it to in eCom, it does not go back over to retail. It stays in eCom. With that being said, there's a little bit of a difference between these two options here. The title is typically what the customer is going to see if they're looking at a category overview of products. So if I'm a customer shopping on the website and I'm looking in the socks category, that's when I'm going to see the title of the item populate. The full title, on the other hand, is going to be seen when I decide that I want to take a closer look at these pink socks in specific. So there could be potentially a longer, more expansive title that I want my customers to see when they actually click into this specific product. Now, I'm making just some modifications here, so we'll see what it looks like when we actually look at this as a finished product. Underneath that, we do have our brand populating. So if we entered that into retail, it syncs over into eCom for us. And in eCom, we are going to have the ability to give our customers a shop by brand page. So this is where customers can see a list of all of the brands we carry. And then from there, they would be able to choose if they want to look at products for one specific brand. We do also have a tab for our supplier. However, you're going to notice that this one is blank. You can publish it here, but it's never going to be seen on your website. And your vendor or your supplier is something that's managed on the retail side as opposed to the eCom side. Underneath that, we do have a product description. Now, this is where we can do like a little write-up about our product. But underneath that, you'll also notice that we have a content section. And this is another spot where we can do a little bit of a write-up about our product. So what's the difference between these two? Our description, so the one up on the top here, is typically going to be used more so for search engine purposes or for marketing purposes. This is typically going to be something kind of more short and sweet, maybe giving your customers some key selling points or some high points about the item that you think they might be interested in. The actual content section, on the other hand, is where you're going to write anything and everything you want customers to see about this specific product. So this could be where it was made, how it was made, the ingredients or materials that went into making it, care instructions, if there are any suggestions as to how to use it. Whatever you want customers to see is going to go in the content section. Now, really quickly, I'm going to type in just a little bit of information in both of these. So when we look at them kind of as finished products, you can kind of see where those populate. So we popped in a little description. Underneath that, we'll then go into our content section. And now in here, you do also have the option of doing some formatting. So if you wanted this to look really unique or be really different, you can go in and you can do some formatting. We can pop in some italics. We can go ahead and pop in some bullet points. We could add in a little table if we had one, any additional links, media, videos. There's lots and lots that you can do in this content section to really kind of spice up your product and make it seem super, super interesting. If we scroll down a little bit, we pop into our inventory and variants section. And now this is where we see our custom SKU, our quantity, and the price of our product. But if we click our little default tab here, there's going to be some more information that we can go through. Now, opening up this little default tab, a lot of the information in here we can't modify because it's coming from the retail side. There are two pieces of information I did want to touch on in here, though, because they may end up being fairly important. So scrolling down, our first section is our weights and sizes. Now, depending on the shipping method that we're planning on using, we may have to come in here and enter in weights and dimensions in order to accurately calculate our shipping rates. So this is where you're able to do that. And then underneath that, we do have a toggle for allowing back orders. Now, this setting is typically going to be for my drop shippers or anyone who maybe does made to order products. What this setting is going to allow you to do is this allows you to sell into the negative. So even if you don't necessarily actually have that product in your inventory, you'd still be able to sell it. It would just decrease your retail inventory into the negative. So if this is a product you know you can get really, really easily, this might be something that you want to turn on. From here, we are going to close out this little tab here in the top right corner, and we're going to continue on. So underneath that, we have something called a delivery time frame. Now, to be completely honest with you, this is something that I do rarely see used, But if you wanted to enter it in here, this is where you can specify a delivery time frame for an item if it's something a little bit more different than what's kind of standard or usual for you. So for example, maybe you have some of those made to order products, and instead of it being 2 to 3 business days to ship, maybe it takes 1 to 2 weeks because you have to actually make the product. This is where you could kind of specify those time frames or those parameters. Underneath that, we do have our image bank populating. Now again, if we entered our images into retail, they sync over to eCom for us, and we can have a maximum of 12 images in here. We can also load in our images just into the eCom side if we wanted to, but do keep in mind that if we enter them into eCom, they do not populate back over to retail. Continuing on from there, we do have our categories. Now, as we again talked about on the retail side, if an item is assigned to a category structure, it's going to maintain those same relationships in eCom. So we don't necessarily have to modify anything. Something cool about the eCom side of things is if we want to attach this product to multiple categories, we have the ability to do that. Whereas in retail, this item can only really be found in one category structure. So in retail, this item can only belong to accessories, socks, and then cotton socks. Whereas in eCom, if I wanted this to be found in accessories, but also my apparel category, we could do that. All we're going to do is we're going to hit the select category button over on the left-hand side of the page here. And then we would just check off every category we think this product is applicable to, so we can kind of gain the most maximum exposure on this product. We'll close that out. And continuing on to the bottom, we head into some advanced options here. Now we'll run through these quickly so you can kind of start to get a feel for what these options do. But if you want a little bit more information on them, you could always take a look in the Help Center, or we can discuss them in a one-on-one. So starting off with filters, this is where we can add in basically additional search criteria for our customers to see. So if we wanted to allow customers to shop by a specific color, maybe we have a color filter and customers want to see all of the products we have in the color blue. They could check off blue, and then they would see a list of any products that have that blue filter attached to them. Underneath that, we have something called related products. And I'm sure you've kind of seen this yourself when you've done your own online shopping, but this is where we can promote other products we think customers might be interested in based on the current product they're looking at. So for these socks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the add product button here. And I'm going to add in, maybe we think they might want the white socks, and then maybe a t-shirt. Pop in a couple little options there. And as the customer is scrolling through the product page, they're going to see this populate on the bottom of the page. So it'll say, you might also like, and then a list of any of those additional product selections we think customers might be interested in. Underneath that, we have a tab for something called specifications. Now again, this is something that I do rarely see people using, but what this would do is that would give you an extra section within the product page to add in specs for a product. So typically, if I see businesses using this, it might be like an electronics company or maybe a bike store. A lot of their products might have very technical information that they want to enter in, and this would give them an additional spot to do so. Underneath that, we have a tab for something called custom fields. And now custom fields are something that I could talk about for hours. They can be very, very, very useful. And there's lots that you can do with these custom fields. For example, we can offer additional services, or we can ask for clarifying information from a customer. So I'll give you an example of each. For additional services, maybe we offer gift wrapping. We could add in a little custom field that says, would you like this product gift wrapped? Yes or no. The customer would get a little drop-down menu where they can choose if they want the product gift wrapped. And we can even attach a price to those choices. So if a customer chooses yes, we could say, great, that's going to be an extra $4 or whatever it's going to be. and that would add it on to their total. For clarifying information, maybe we offer personalization or customization for our items. What this would do is we could give the customer, again, a little drop down that says, would you like this personalized or customized? They could choose yes or no, and we could attach a price to that if we need to. But then we could also give them a text box to say, what do you want personalized or customized on this item? It could be a spot for like a name, it could be a spot for a message, totally up to you. But there's lots and lots that we can do with these custom fields. Underneath that, we have tags. Now, again, these are going to be keywords that customers may use to search for our product. Do keep in mind the retail ones do not come over to eCom. So if you want some, you can enter them in here. And then finally, at the bottom here, we have quantity discounts. This is just where we can encourage customers to purchase more of an item. And if they do so, they'll receive a discount. So we could say, great, if you buy 3 of this item, you get X amount of a discount on those items. Awesome. So we're going to save all of our changes here. And from here, let's go ahead and move into our matrix items. So we're going to head back to our products tab over on the top left. And let's open up that turtleneck sweater we were working with. Now, a lot of the information that we see here is going to be the exact same as what we just went through, but there's going to be a couple key differences I wanted to run through. So I'm going to go ahead and change the visibility of this one. And I'm going to modify both our title and our full title again, so we can see what that looks like when we look at this finished product. I'm going to leave my brand the way it is. Not too worried about my supplier because that's going to be controlled from the retail side. But I'm going to enter in a little bit of a description. Underneath that, again, we have our whole content section, so we can enter in kind of anything and everything we want to say about our sweater. Perfect. Pop in a few pieces of information here. And now I'm going to save my changes. Underneath our content section, when we get back to our inventory and variance section, this is where things get a little bit more different. So as you can see, since this is a matrix, already we see a list of all of the different variants that we offer for this matrix within here. The one that has the little default sticker beside it just means that that's the first option customers see when they open up this product. If we know that there is a specific variation or combination we want customers to see, we can pop over to the Action tab on the right-hand side of the page here, and then just say flag as default. Maybe we also have to go in and modify our weights and dimensions or weights and sizes. Now, we could open up each individual option and modify them one by one, or what we could do that can make things a little bit faster is we can use our little bulk selector tool on the left-hand side, so all of our little check boxes. We can choose how many we've selected and then go ahead and say edit. We can choose the pieces of information that we want to modify, so I'm going to say weights and dimensions. And down at the bottom, in our case, all of these values are going to be the same, so we're going to say yes. We'll hit the next button in the top right, and now we can actually type in whatever those weights and dimensions or weights and sizes are going to be. So I'm just going to pop some in so we can see what it looks like when everything is all finished. I do apologize if you can hear my dog coughing in the background here. But once we've entered in all of our information, we're going to go ahead and save up in the very top right corner here. And now if I was to open up any one of these variants, scroll down to that weights and sizes section, we should see it populating with the information that we just entered in. So especially if you have an item that has lots and lots of variants, this can definitely help speed up the process and make your life a little bit easier. Beautiful. Closing that out. Kind of the next thing I wanted to talk about that's going to be a little bit different is to do with our images. Now, if we scroll down just a little bit, right off the bat, you'll notice that we have 2 images uploaded for this product. That's because we uploaded both of these images into the matrix as opposed to loading them into the variants themselves. If we would have loaded these images into the variants, we would have 3 of the white sweater and 3 of the black sweater images populating. Then from there, we'd have some cleaning up to do. You'll also notice that one of our images has a little blue banner on it. This little blue banner just means that that product is the default image. So it's the first image customers see when they look at this product. If we want to switch that, all we're going to do is just drag and drop our items or our images into a different order. Whichever one is in the first place is going to be the one that has the little default banner on it. Now from here, you'll notice that each one of my variations has a little plus button beside it. This is where we can assign an image to our specific variant. So if I decide that when the customer clicks on the white sweater, I want them to see the white sweater image. When they click on the black sweater, they see the black sweater image. This is how we're going to accomplish that. So if I pop into one of my white options, for example, we'll use our little plus button. We'll go ahead and say we want them to see the white one. And then it populates with that image. So popping it in again here, we'll do that for each one of our white variations. And then we would do the same thing with our black variations. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm not going to load my image into the black variations. And there's a reason for that. If we scroll down to our image bank again, you'll notice that our black sweater image is the default image. What this means is anytime there is an item that does not have a specific image attached to it, or it's blank, like our 3R up here, that default image is going to be used in its place. So since that's the correct image I want assigned anyways, I'm going to leave it blank because it's a little bit less work that I have to do. And when my customer goes to look at the black sweater online, they're going to see the default image, which is the black sweater image. If you wanted to, you could still go through and click your little plus button here and assign the black sweater instead. Totally up to you, but this can absolutely help kind of speed up the process a little bit. Beautiful. If we continue on from here, we have all of the same options we saw before. So we have a delivery time frame if we wanted to enter that in. We talked about our image bank. We have the category our item is assigned to, and then all of the advanced options we saw before populating in here as well. So we can go ahead and enter in or modify all of those if we wanted to. From here though, I'm going to save my changes. And before we look at this as a finished product on the website, I had 2 other things really quickly that I wanted to go through. Now I'm going to open up my website. I know I have it open in another tab here because I wanted to talk about these top little tabs on our website for just a second. These top tabs are going to be our navigation tabs, and typically they're going to come from our categories. Now, when you first open up your website, it's very likely that this section up here is going to be completely blank. It's very, very normal because what we have to go through and do is we have to make our categories visible. Now you'll notice that our accessories one with our socks is already visible and it's good to go, but we're missing our apparel category for our sweaters. So we're going to head to our back office again here. We'll go back to home and kind of start over. So on our left-hand menu, we're going to go into our products tab. Underneath that, we're going to go into categories, again, on the left-hand side of the page. And if we scroll down to the very, very bottom, we have our apparel category. Now, what I can do is if I know that I want all of these to be visible, I can use my little bulk selector tool on the left-hand side of the page, click where it says 3 items selected, and we'll go ahead and make these visible. Now, you'll notice that my apparel category or my top level category is still set to be not visible. So no customers are going to be able to see this just yet. For any categories that have a subcategory attached, we have to click into that category. So I'm going to open up apparel, scroll down to the very, very bottom of the page, and we have a little toggle here for include in catalog. Once we toggle this on and save our changes, we can open up our website. I'll do a little refresh, and we now have apparel populating on our top line of options. Second thing I wanted to mention is to do with this little brands tab here up on the top. So actually adding in the brands page is something you'll learn more about in the design webinar. But if we open this up, you'll notice that some of my brands have logos added in, and that's what I wanted to touch on. If you want your customer to see the logo of the brand when they're looking at kind of your brand's page, that's absolutely something we can enter in. So heading to our back office again here, we're still in our product section, but on the left-hand side of the page now under categories, we're going to go into the brands tab. Within here, this is where you're going to see a list of all of the brands that have been entered into the retail side that came over to eCom. And if we wanted to enter in an image, all we would do is open up the brand, scroll down a little bit to the image section, upload our image, and then it's going to populate on the website for us. So let's go ahead and open up our website. We'll take a look at a couple of those finished products there, and then we will be all good to go. So starting off with our accessories category, let's pop into our socks one. From here, you can see those pink socks that we're working on, and you'll notice we have our title here. So that may be kind of short and sweet. If there is a bit of a shorter, more condensed title we want customers to see, clicking on this image here to open up the product, over on the right-hand side of the page, you'll notice our full title. So if there was a longer, more expansive title we wanted customers to see, this is where they would see that. Underneath that, we do have our product description showing up. So as I said, this one is going to be a little bit more short and sweet. Typically is to do with marketing or search engine purposes. So that one does have a character limit. But if we continue on down the page, we are going to see all of our content populating. So that's anything and everything we decided we wanted to say about this product. We did enter in a couple tags, and those are populating here as well. And then down at the very, very bottom of the page, we have our related products section. If we continue scrolling down, we just hit the footer of our website, which is something we'll talk about in the design webinar. Let's scroll back up to the top of the page here, and we'll take a look at our sweater that we created. So let's pop into our apparel category. Here is our little turtleneck sweater that we created. And again, we do have our title on this page here. Opening this one up, it looks very, very similar to our socks that we're just working with. We have our full title. We have our description, everything that we want, kind of short and sweet, what we want to say about this product. But then if we continue on from there, we have some drop-down menus. This is where customers can choose the specific variation or combination that they want to take a look at. So from here, my customer could say, great, I want to see the white option. And since we attach the white image to our white sweater variations, customers are going to see the white image populate. With our black images, even though we did not assign the black image to the black variants, because the black image is set to be the default or the featured image, that's what's going to be pulled instead. So our customers could say, great, I want to see the sweater in a black small, and it's going to populate with the black image for them. Continuing on, we have our sweater content section, and that's all we entered in for this specific product. We didn't enter in anything else additional. Beautiful. So that, my friends, is going to be it in terms of all of the content that we'll go through for today. I'm going to do a little bit of a wrap up, then we'll get into any potential questions that might have popped up. So I'm going to open up my slides here. So kind of for your next step in the onboarding journey, my team is going to reach out to get you booked in for the eCom design webinar. That way we'll go through how to actually build out your website with the tools Lightspeed gives you. You'll also have the option of attending a one-on-one consultation with an implementation specialist. So if you had any questions you wanted to go through, any specific workflows, anything like that, we can get you booked in for one of those. Then you'll also have the option of attending our SEO webinar for a little bit more information. Now, definitely would suggest taking a look at that Go Live or Getting Started checklist that you can find in the Help corner, in the bottom left corner of your account, in the Help button. Super, super good tool to make sure that you're just crossing everything off the list. And it does give you a little bit of a loose timeline to work with as well. But you're more than welcome to start working on your online products and start gathering content and photos to enter in. But we are going to send you a tiny bit of homework in our follow-up email. Nothing too crazy, I promise. A lot of it is just going to happen organically as you build out your website. But we are also going to reach out to get you booked in for our design webinar. So let's go ahead and get into our Q&A session. If there are any questions anyone wanted to go through, please feel free to take a second to pop those in the questions box now. We'll spend the next couple minutes going through those, and then I will be able to let you guys all go. Awesome. So I did get a question coming through here about creating categories in eCom. So let me open up my eCom back office here. So if you wanted to create categories just in eCom, you do have the ability to do so. So we're going to pop into our products tab on the left-hand side of the page here. Staying on the left-hand side of the page, we're going to go into our categories tab. And up in the very top right corner, you do have an add category button. This is where you can manually create a category that's just going to live on the eCom side. So do keep in mind that if you do create a category in eCom, it's going to stay in eCom. You're not ever going to see that product populating on the retail side, but you're more than welcome to create some back here if you want to. Super, super good question. Another one coming through here saying, if I wanted to export my eCom products to make some changes, can I do that? Absolutely. So on our left-hand side of the page, we'll pop into the product section here. And up in the very top right, you do have a button to export. So in there, you can choose what you're going to export. It would pop it into a spreadsheet, and then from there, you can make any changes, and you could import them back in to update that product information. Absolutely. Really good question. Awesome. Another one coming through here about matrix attribute sets. So where do I create my own matrix attribute set? Yeah, so let's pop into the retail side because that's where that's going to be created. So we're going to pop into our inventory tab, back into retail, heading into our inventory tab on the left-hand side of the page here. On our third column of options, we have a tab for matrix attribute sets. So opening this one up, this is where we'll see a list of any existing matrix attribute sets. And all we would do in the top right corner is hit the new matrix attribute set button and just fill out the information. Then this matrix attribute set is going to be available for us to use going forward, and we could apply it to any of our matrix products that we wanted. Really good question. Awesome. Perfect. Well, that looks like that is all the questions that had come through here. So I know I sound like a little bit of a broken record, but as I said, my team is going to reach out to get you booked in for the design webinar. You are going to get a copy of today's webinar recording in your follow-up email. So if anything, if you wanted to review it or pass it along to anyone, you're more than welcome to do so. You can also reach out to our support team if anything pops up. They'll be more than happy to help you. But thank you so much for joining me today, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and hopefully I'll get to work with some of you in the future. Bye, everyone.